Welcome to the session about farm to fork and zero pollution. As said by Matthew, we are two presenters for this session. It's Nicole Wies, the National Contact Point for Health, and myself, Linda Münger, the National Contact Point for Food and Agriculture. I quickly make this short, smaller. So let me state again that the topic texts are still in a draft or preliminary version until publication in September. So only in September you will find the official topic text on the funding and tender portal of the European Commission. So if in case you have already started to work on a proposal, carefully read the final topic text that will be published on the funding and tender portal. And now I will come to the topic, which is called Testing and Demonstrating Systemic Innovations for Sustainable Food from Farm to Fork. Let me start with giving some background information which is relevant to this specific topic. So first of all the activities for this topic will contribute to one of the main aims of the European Green Deal, which is to make the EU climate neutral by 2020. Another very important strategy paper is the Farm to Fork strategy. So the Farm to Fork strategy is at the heart of the European Green Deal, and it aims to establish a fair, healthy and environmentally friendly food system. The targets and objectives of this Farm to Fork strategy are very ambitious. You can see those targets here. I will not present all of them. I will just give one example. For example, one target is to reduce by 50% the use and risk of chemical pesticides and the use of more hazardous pesticides by 50% by 2030. As this Farm to Fork strategy is crucial for this topic, I really highly recommend to read this strategy paper carefully. And you should also address the targets, the relevant targets and relevant objectives from the Farm to Fork strategy in your project. So now I'm coming to the actual topic, the testing and demonstrating systemic innovations for sustainable food from farm to fork. This topic is an innovation action. This means that the funding rate is different for for-profit and non-profit organizations. It's 70% for for-profit and 100% for non-profit. And also it means that your technology is already at the elevated technology readiness level. So you should start at TRL 5, which means the technology is already validated in a relevant environment. What a relevant environment is for your technology is up to you to define. But it's important that these projects focus on upscaling and that the research activities are only limited. So the research activities will not be in the center of the projects. So the main aim really is to test, pilot, and showcase place-based innovative systemic solutions. And the expected budget for one project will be around 6 to 12 million euro, and the total budget will be 72 million euro. So now coming to the specific challenge, which really requires efforts from different stakeholders. So the specific challenge is to feed a growing population and to bring the food systems within a safe and just operating space, taking into account the planetary health, economic viability and social welfare, and also human health. So the facts here speak for themselves. So 20% of the food is wasted in the EU, 29% of the total greenhouse gases emissions are caused by the food systems, and 1 in 5 adults in the EU are obese. Therefore, the main scope of this topic is to test, pilot, and demonstrate innovative systemic solutions to one of the pressing food system challenges that are defined in the topic text. I will present them in a few seconds. I would just want to come back to the wording systemic. So it means also that you should go beyond technological solutions, and you should also include the social dimension, and the project should really cover the entire value chain from production to consumption. So these are the subtopics that are defined in the topic text, and you have to address one of those subtopics. These are achieving climate neutral farms, achieving climate neutral food businesses, reducing the dependence on contentious pesticides, and to increase the efficiency of fertilizers, reducing the dependence on the use of antimicrobials, reducing food losses and waste, or shifting to a sustainable, healthy diet. So you have, with your project, you have to address one of them. Further to consider in the project is that you really have to apply a system thinking and systems approach to define the challenge. So you have to include the in-depth systemic analysis of its drivers and root causes, and you have to assess the impact, the risk, the synergies and trade-offs with regards to sustainability, food and nutrition security, food system resilience, food safety, and you have to address the impact towards objectives outlined in the Farm to Fork strategy that I presented in the beginning and from the Green Deal. And when you are relating to the sustainability, you should relate to the 3 dimensions of sustainability: the social, the climate and environmental sustainability, and also the economic sustainability. The projects, they fall under the multi-actor approach, and they should be cross-sectoral in order to co-create, test and demonstrate solutions in practice. This means that you have to work together with primary producers, or to include primary producers, processors, retailers, consumers, public and private institutions, and citizens. And you have to choose a most appropriate mix of innovations, such as digital technologies, new business and supply chain models, new governance models, and social innovations. Also, you have to deliver and implement an action plan for dissemination, communication and engagement on a European scale, first of all, but also going beyond the regions where the activities take place. This is really important. So how to build a consortium for this topic? As it is a collaborative project from Horizon 2020, the rule of 3 member states or 3 member states or associated countries apply. SMEs are strongly encouraged to participate, and you should choose a good mix and integration of academia, industry, policymakers, and societal actors. And what is specific for this topic is that you should foster collaboration, building bridges, and also breaking silos between the actors of the food chain and between the primary sectors. And you should also take specific care to engage young professionals like young farmers, young fishers, young researchers, young entrepreneurs, and SMEs, as well as citizens. So how to find partner for this topic? As already often mentioned, the best is to ask within your own network. And as soon as the topic text will be published on the funding and tender portal, you will also find a partner search section there. And I also recommend to participate at the Research and Innovation Days in September, for which you have to register. This will be an online event. Also recommend to participate at brokerage events. And last but not least, use the Cordis database, where you can find running and finished projects which are similar to your planned project, and you can find possible partners using this tool. So this was the end of the first topic that I wanted to present to you. Now I'm going to talk about my next topic, 9.3, which is called A Transparent and Accessible Ocean Towards a Digital Twin of the Ocean. So this topic is part of the Area 9, which is named Strengthening Our Knowledge in Support of the European Green Deal. This area will strengthen the European knowledge base and understanding of the complex issues between the climate change and sustainability, and it will also help to adopt a longer-term perspective and to act as a bridge to Horizon Europe, which is the next research and innovation framework program. The topic is called Towards a Transparent and Accessible Ocean, a Digital Twin of the Ocean. It's also an innovation action, so the funding rates for for-profit and non-profit organizations are different, 70% and 100%. And the budget will be 12 million and there will be one project funded. So the specific challenge here is really to develop a digital twin of the ocean, which fills the need to integrate a wide range of ocean data sources and then to transform the data into knowledge. The main scope is to develop an interoperable pilot digital twin where you can also address, where you have to address concrete cases and you have to identify and test the most efficient solutions. And you should go from data acquisition to users' services. So the expected impact is to deliver an interactive virtual tool of the ocean, and you should contribute to increase the capacity to observe coastal and marine waters. And the project should also reinforce conservation and increase citizens' engagement. The project should also allow for knowledge-based decision-making. And finally, it should also encourage the industry to look for business opportunities in ocean data. So for these projects, you should establish links to relevant Horizon 2020 and R&D projects and existing infrastructures. Here you can find a few examples such as Copernicus, Blue Cloud, Eurofleet, and EMBRC. So I hope I could give some insight into these two topics. So in case you're interested in one of those two topics, please contact me by phone or by email, and I will be happy to support you in the process. This is then the end of my two presentations. I will hand over the word now to Nicole. Nicole, are you here?
Yes.
I will stop
sharing.
Can you see me? Yes, I can see you and hear you, and I will stop sharing the presentation.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Linda. Good morning, everybody. Zero pollution. This dream shall become reality by 2050, and the European Commission is giving 60 million euro to tackle this challenge. Toxic pollution affects more than 200 million people worldwide, according to Pure Earth, a non-profit organization. And there is particular concern about chemicals that persist in the environment and accumulate in animal and humans, leading to decreased life expectancy and/or disease. To protect citizens and ecosystems, the EU needs to better monitor, report, and prevent the pollution of its air, water, and soil. And this is exactly the subject of Area 8. There are two topics I will present you now, asking for solutions to protect from persistent and mobile chemicals on the one hand, and for fostering regulatory science to address combination of pharmaceuticals and chemicals on the other hand. To draw the context, you find in these following two slides publications dealing with different kinds of persistent chemicals, namely PMT, persistent mobile and toxic chemicals, and VPVM, very persistent and very mobile chemicals. You have one publication on this slide and two further publications here. These are examples. They are by no means complete, but to show that it is an important problem and give you some insights. The first topic I will present has the identifier LCGD81-2020. Entering this in the funding and tender portal will enable you to find it quickly. It is entitled Innovative, Systemic, Zero Pollution Solutions to Protect Health, Environment and Natural Resources from Persistent and Mobile Chemicals. And it aims at demonstrating solutions of persistent and mobile chemicals, such as PFAS, that stands for per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, a group of man-made chemicals that are found in many consumer products, such as cookware, food packaging, and stain repellents. And they are very persistent in the environment and accumulate in the human body, leading to disease. This topic is a research and innovation action. You have heard from my colleagues that the funding rate here is 100%, both for entities working in academia or for profit organizations. The topic is, you understood it now, very persistent and mobile chemicals. The budget is 8 to 12 million euro per project, with a total of 40 million euro. This means that 3 to 5 projects will be funded. It is a single stage procedure and the standard Horizon 2020 submission rules apply. And the deadline, like all other topics of the Green Deal call, are end of January 2021. The targeted impact is to better understand a persistent pollution problem. Also to establish new knowledge, exploring the feasibility of new or improved technologies and demonstrating innovative solutions to protect health, environment and natural resources. The selected projects are expected to advance our knowledge on health impacts and environmental effects. The proposed activities are that the solutions developed should lead to cost-effective prevention, monitoring and mitigation or elimination of the issues. They should also lead to better understanding of environmental fate and help proactively prevent negative impacts from persistent and mobile chemicals on humans and the environment. The projects may include appropriate technologies, business, governance, and social innovation aspects, and the demonstration of innovative solutions in a relevant environment, meaning that the technology readiness levels should be 4 to 6. And as stated in the topic text, you shall take into account support actions deriving from several EU documents on persistent and mobile chemicals, the upcoming Zero Pollution Action Plan, which is expected to be adopted next year, and the aims of the new Circular Economy Action Plan to minimize the presence of substances that pose problems to humans and environmental health. And you will get the slides, and the documents are hyperlinked here, and they were explained in more detail by Matthew earlier. The second topic, we switch now from purely chemicals to mixtures of chemicals and pharmaceuticals. And this topic aims at fostering regulatory science to address combined exposures to industrial chemicals and pharmaceuticals, from science to evidence-based policies. It is also a research and innovation action, dealing with a mix of chemicals and pharmaceuticals. The budget is a little bit lower than topic 1. It is 4 to 6 million euro per project, with a total of 20 million euro budget for this topic, meaning that 3 to 5 projects will be funded. And same conditions apply. It's a single stage procedure with standard Horizon 2020 submission rules and deadline at end of January 2021. And here, in addition to the risks posed by chemical, there is growing concern about the occurrence of pharmaceuticals in the environment. Humans, wildlife, and domestic animals are exposed to combinations of different chemicals via, be it air, water, food, or feed. And the scientific understanding of combination effects has progressed, but there is still a need to improve the scientific knowledge base and also to advance regulatory science to provide policymakers and risk assessors with validated and practically applicable approaches and methods. Therefore, this core topic aims at demonstration studies to show how innovative solutions can be applied in risk assessment to identify, prevent, and manage harmful co-exposure to industrial, chemical, and pharmaceutical mixes. So it aims at identification of most commonly, It aims at identification of most commonly encountered mixture, the impacts on different parts of the ecosystem and human health, and implementation of solutions to reduce the most critical exposures. It also aims at more targeted and innovative risk assessment of mixture of chemicals and pharmaceuticals to better assist their presence in drinking water, soil, food, and feed. And the proposed activities are demonstration of innovative solutions to quantify and prevent the most harmful co-exposures to industrial chemicals and pharmaceuticals, and advanced solutions for the establishment of causality between co-exposures and effects. You can also develop targeted and non-targeted high throughput technologies for screening and advanced bioinformatics approaches, such as artificial intelligence and other data mining methodologies to identify the most representative real-life mixture scenarios in humans. And it's also about identification of lead components in mixtures responsible for the impact on human health and the ecosystems and mobile substances. And it is written in the topic text also that you shall take into account support activities on combined exposures as relevant for the strategic approach to pharmaceuticals in the environment, and as to be defined in the forthcoming chemical strategy for sustainability. Again, you will find the links to the documents in the slides that will be provided to you after this webinar. And there are specific topic conditions. I will not read them through in detail, but you have to monitor, to use the platform for all monitoring data, and you also have to refer to the HBM for EU project when having human biomonitoring activity procedures. And there is also a dissemination obligation you have to fulfill when running your project. This leads me to my take-home message. It is quick and easy. Read carefully the topic text. Once it will be published in September, after the Research and Innovation Days. And if you have questions, contact us at Euresearch. We are here to guide you and help you if you need. And now I give back the floor to Joël for the question and answer session.
Thanks, Nicole, and thanks also, Linda, for your excellent presentation. So we have different questions that came in. Linda, I would like to start with you on topic 6.1. There have actually been two questions which are going into the same direction. So this topic 6.1 on testing and demonstrating systemic innovation. The question was whether a project can address more than one sub-challenge or subtopics.
So the answer to this question is very clear. No, you can't. You can only address one of the listed subtopics. So that's a really short question, but answer, but this is how it's defined. So only one subtopic you should address with your project. Okay,
thanks a lot. Then Linda, again for you on topic 9.3 towards a transparent and accessible ocean. Is there actually a time expectation on when the expected impact might be seen? So does it have to be reached, this impact, and measured during the project, or can it also be later?
So the impact, of course, it does go beyond the duration of the project. And also there are short-term and long-term impacts that's important. And of course, they should be quantifiable during a given time, but there is no specific time yet defined in the topic text. But of course, the impact goes beyond the project duration, as there should be long-term impacts.
Thanks for this answer. So Nicole, I've got another question, and I think it is on topic 8.1 on zero pollution. The question is, does a project only need to be does it only need to be a persistent pollutant? For example, can it be highly health relevant even if it remains in the environment for 2 weeks? Furthermore, can the activity be focused on one of the compartments of the environments, for example, air pollution, or should it be holistic, involving the entire geochemical compartments, such as soil, water, and air? So it's quite a long question. I hope you were able to follow it. So the first part is actually on the persistent pollutant, if that should be addressed.
Yes, really, the focus is really on these persistent pollutants, and it's up to you, according to your model, to choose if it is relevant. I must admit, I'm not a specialist of these persistent pollutants, so I don't know if it's relevant if it stays in the environment for only 2 weeks. Does it harm? It could stay in the environment but accumulate in bodies. But I would say really the focus is persistent pollutant, and you have to know if it's fitting or not. And yes, you can fit on one of the compartments. It also it depends on the route. If it's by ingestion, you don't need to look in the air, for instance. So it's really up to you as specialists to decide what makes sense.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. Another question on the same topic, 8.1. Do you think, Nicole, do you think that exposure path soil agriculture is included in this topic, or is it rather the water path only, or consumer products?
I don't exactly, I don't know what is meant with the past soil agriculture, but I would repeat what I said previously. You studied the persistent pollutant, and you look which is the pathway leading to the pollution, and especially the effect on health. Perhaps,
Okay.
Linda, would you have an opinion here?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but I'm not sure of, I don't know the topic text if this is included, so I can't give a clear answer to that, but we can go into detail, and the person who asked this question can contact us, and then we try to answer it bilaterally.
I think this is a very good idea. So in general, do not hesitate to contact the dedicated person for your topic or your area. And I think in this case, it's quite...
So this person can contact us, and then we try to find the answer.
Exactly. So I've got maybe a bit more general question. What about the type of reimbursement? Will it be applied, will the lump sum be applied as it has been already in some Horizon 2020 pilot calls? Is there any lump sum in your topics?
Not in topics 8.1 and 8.2.
To my knowledge, no, there are no lump sum projects.
Yes.
Not for topic 6 and 9.3.
Okay, I think this is also, I think for the general Green Deal call,
I would say, yeah.
As far as I know, there are no lump sums here,
No.
but it's a very good question, of course, because there have been lump sum pilots in Horizon 2020. There is another question coming in on if there is any call that requires cooperation with other Green Deal initiatives outside Europe, Korea, etc. So I think we start with your topics. In your topics, is this the case? Is there any call that explicitly asks for international cooperation, so cooperation beyond EU countries or associated countries such as Switzerland?
I mean, in my topics, international cooperation, of course, is encouraged. It's possible, but I'm not aware of any other call that requires the cooperation with other Green Deal initiatives. But of course, international cooperation is encouraged.
And the same applies for my two topics. There is no, it's not mandatory, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks for this. And I think we had also one example earlier of Stefan, who actually mentioned this cooperation with Africa in the energy sector. So certainly in general, we can say that international cooperation, so this means cooperation also with non-EU countries or associated countries to Horizon 2020 as Switzerland, is in general possible. And sometimes it's even required. But of course, the question is here always whether there will be direct funding by the European Commission. But I think, again, here you can come back to us, national contact points, or also you can come back to our colleagues in the regions or the SME advisors. I think we have a bit of time for other questions. So as there are no other questions coming into the chat, Nicole, allow myself to ask a more general question, but maybe we can use your topics as an example. So as we know, this is all about collaborative research and innovation. You mentioned two topics, one with 8 to 12 million euro, more or less per project, can be a bit more or a bit less, of course, and another topic with 4 to 6 million euros. So I suppose if participants look at these numbers, they ask maybe themselves, okay, but how big should such a consortium be? How many participants are there? We have the minimum requirements, which is normally 3 partners from 3 different EU or associated countries. But is this really enough, you know, or does a consortium with, let's say, 10 million euro, has it to be bigger? Maybe you can answer this, take this question, Nicole, but of course, Linda, you can also comment on this.
If we take the example of my topics, you have to look at the expertise that is required. In some instances, so if you need, for instance, biomonitoring or high throughput analysis or artificial intelligence, you need experts in all these fields. If involvement of policymakers is required or regulatory bodies, you are welcome to look for partners that are in this field. So often these topics require more than 3 partners, and according to what is asked, this can be technical and more regulatory bodies that are involved.
Mm-hmm. Linda, maybe you would like to add something on this?
Yeah, I would say generally these projects within the Green Deal call, they are really big projects. So a certain number of partners is required, and also a lot of different expertise. So we can expect big consortia. But what the definition of big is of course then up to the consortium itself to define how many partners are really necessary for each project.
Yeah, maybe if you can just comment on that as well. I think a lot of the topics ask for this whole value chain assessment, you know, so it really means we need to have all stakeholders involved. So we have this holistic approach, we have big budgets. So I think that confirms that we are trending towards larger rather than smaller consortia.
Thanks. We have time for one last question, which has been posted in the chat, and it is on partners from outside the EU, or also partners that are not belong to associated countries, such as Switzerland. Can they be funded under the Green Deal color in general on the Horizon 2020 collaborative projects? Who wants to take this one?
I can take it. Normally, only member states and associated countries are eligible for funding. Here we said that international cooperation is not mandatory. Nothing is specified in the topic text. Therefore, partners from outside Europe, meaning third countries, partners from third countries will not receive funding.
Okay, Linda, do you want to add on this?
I'm fine with.
Okay, maybe we can just add that there is a list of countries that are third countries eligible for funding, more coming from Africa, Latin America, which are more developing countries. And there is a whole list on these countries. So if you're interested in this list, maybe you write us an email and we will be happy to provide you with those third countries that actually are eligible for funding. We'll be happy to provide you with this list. So thanks a lot again to Nicole and to Linda, and I will now hand over to Matthew.